So I'm joined today by Mark Weinstein, who's the founder and chairman of MeWe, a social media platform with over 20 million users that makes explicit guarantees to its users about privacy. Mark's also known as a global leader in privacy advocacy, and I'm really delighted, Mark, that you can be with us today to talk about privacy, MeWe, and how our students might be thinking about this as they launch their careers.
Thank you, Bill. Great to be here, and thank you to all you future privacy advocates watching this video. Thank you for championing the right to privacy, which is an innate human right.
So, Mark, I thought we might get started by you just telling us what inspired you to start MeWe to begin with. My recollection is it's almost a decade ago that you founded this company, around 2012. This is a period when it might not have been as apparent to many people that privacy was going to become such an important issue as it has. What was it that initially led you to start this company?
So, setting the record straight, Bill, MeWe launched officially in 2016. That's when we actually launched MeWe, both in the app stores and on the web. But you're right. So let's go back to 1998, and for everybody, it's February 2022 today. So in 1998, I started one of the first social networks in the world. We had superfamily.com, superfriends.com. These were PC Magazine top 100 sites 3 years in a row, back in the first generation of social media, when people weren't even imagineering anything like this. So I was an early founder in social media, in this whole movement, in this whole technological tour de force, where the vision was staying connected with your family and friends, and finding like-minded interests, using great technology. And listen, guys, back in 1998, email was already ghastly, and it still is 24 years later in 2022. So, I built one of the first ones, hired people at my kitchen table. And so that's how it starts. Now that company ran until the implosion of Web 1.0 in 2001. Fast forward, I wrote some books on leadership and greatness. And I got into sort of high-tech consulting for a period of time, and then watched the industry as it evolved, MySpace, Facebook in the mid-2000s. And then right around 2010, Mark Zuckerberg made a statement that floored me. Mark Zuckerberg declared that privacy was a social norm of the past. I actually watched his interview when he said this. And I literally had an out-of-body experience almost. My jaw dropped, certainly in-body. But I was like, did I just hear that? Did Mark Zuckerberg just decide for his own wallet that privacy is dead so that he can make as much money as possible spying on us? And I was floored, because as one of the early founders, and listen, there were many early founders of social media, a whole handful of companies started in the late 90s. But as one of them, I was like, man, this isn't what social networking is for, so you can spy on us and make money. Social networking is for us, for the people, to stay connected, to use technology, because we're all living around the world now. Our families and friends, we're everywhere. The globe is a family community now. And so I decided right then and there that I would come back to social media, that I would start a company, and that I would fix these problems. Now, it took me a while. This meant that I had to liquidate my retirement account, sell my home, relocate to Silicon Valley, and start a company. And it took a few years. And in 2012, Fox News decided to interview me as a person, giving an opinion on Facebook's IPO, which was going to happen the next day. So I got on Fox News in 2012, Fox Business, and I said, guys, they got this wrong. Privacy is going to come back. They've screwed this thing up. So now, Bill, to your point, it took a while for the rest of the world to discover that there was a problem. But for me, it was blatantly obvious the moment that Zuckerberg declared privacy was dead. I was like, dude, it's okay for the whole world to know about your politics, your religious views, your political views, your health views, your sexuality views, everything about you. Are you crazy? the world is not a safe place. What are you smoking? So, I mean, really infuriating. Anyway, so moved to Silicon Valley and started a beta project called the Scruples Beta Project. We ran that project until 2016, early 2016, at South by Southwest, we announced MeWe. And at the South by Southwest, we won a lovely award for Startup of the Year finalists for Innovative World Technology. Now, as a footnote there, already by that time, in fact, 2 years prior, the inventor of the World Wide Web, Sir Tim Berners-Lee, and other notable thought leaders had joined what I now call the MeWe movement. And Sir Tim was and remains today an advisor to our company.
Now, you've spoken on this larger issue of surveillance capitalism. And I take it that, Facebook is, who's a direct competitor of yours, is sort of one of many companies that you think participate in this larger process of surveillance capitalism. Can you sort of walk through in a bit more detail, what are the ways in which surveillance capitalism endangers privacy? How do these processes work? And then what is it that MeWe does differently? How does a platform function that avoids the sort of pitfalls of surveillance capitalism?
All right, everybody, now I'm going to try and do this succinctly because that's a big question. First of all, as you all have discovered in your own lives, surveillance capitalism is a method of capitalism by which a business like Facebook, we use Facebook as the example, but Google does this too, and other companies, Snap does it, a whole bunch of companies do it. They spy on you. They watch your conversations. They actually watch everything, the algorithms do. They watch and analyze everything you say, everything you do, every location you're at, every activity you're involved in, every person you're connected to, and how you interact with them. They have thousands of data scientists and psychologists analyzing and feeding and manipulating the algorithms. And what happens is they are actually, without your knowledge, manipulating not only your newsfeed, but they're manipulating your thoughts, your emotions, your votes, your purchase decisions, everything. And this is well documented. So I have a very small TED Talk about it. I did a 9-minute TED Talk about the rise of surveillance capitalism. Of course, you can watch The Social Dilemma. Terms and Conditions May Apply, a great film by Colin Hoback back in 2013 even, way back then. Hoback chases Mark Zuckerberg around with a camera. It's really, really hilarious and interesting. So there's the premise of how these companies operate. And they allow advertisers, marketers, politicians, countries, who's ever got the dollar to pay them to target and manipulate you. They allow people to amplify conversations. They amplify outrageous conversations into your newsfeed. They amplify advertisements and marketing schemes into your newsfeed based on what they know about your emotions. Listen, it's well documented. They targeted suicidal teens. They've done terrible, terrible things because all they care about is the dollar. At MeWe, we run it differently. First of all, we don't have ads or any kind of way for people to boost. We have no amplification, no advertisements. We have a privacy bill of rights for our members. Your data is yours, not ours. Nobody manipulates your newsfeed. Your newsfeed is 100% timeline order, who you're connected to. That means your contacts, the groups you're in, the pages, the influencers you follow, 100% timeline order in your newsfeed. Nothing gets in the way. Nothing can be amplified. Nobody on the platform can pay to boost anything. No advertiser, marketer, or politician can pay us anything to boost to you. Nothing gets boosted. Google can't get in and take something out of MeWe and amplify it on the web. Can't happen. Google is blocked. So imagine this. We love to say, imagine MeWe. Imagine social media done right. How do we make money? Very important question. MeWe is freemium. Freemium, everybody. So that means it's free. So everything you love about social media is free. MeWe has all the features you love. We've got disappearing content and stories and journals and a great custom camera and live voice and live video. We've got, tons and tons of stuff. Great groups, great pages, great private groups, private news feeds for your close friends, everything that you love, and none of the BS. So we make money by having a premium membership where we have some extra features. So if you want to support MeWe, then you can become a premium member and pay us $5 a month, $60 a year, $4.99 a month, to have some extra features. We have a cool custom themes, custom emoji, sticker store, and you get all those for free instead of buying them a la carte. We've got extra storage because everybody on MeWe has their own cloud. You've got what we call My Cloud. So everything you post, you can retrieve, you can find, you can download, you can reshare. So, instead of 8 gigs, you get 100 gigs. I mean, all kinds of stuff in MeWe Premium. Soon we'll have followers in there in case you want followers on your profile, but you don't want a page. Soon we'll have song clips in there so you can put music with, your posts. We also have great chats and chat threads. Every group has a chat too. We have great calendars. We have great stuff. Everything you love about social media. None of the BS. Freemium. And remember, here's how freemium works. If you get about 4% of your members to buy something, to help pay, to give you a revenue inflow, you can run a profitable company. Yeah, maybe you won't make as much money as Facebook, but do you really need to make as much money as Facebook? How about a nice, ethical, profitable company? It's called Conscious Capitalism, everybody. The founder of Conscious Capitalism, Raj Sisodia, is over at Babson, is also one of our advisors.
So this raises a really interesting point, which is privacy is not just, you might say, this ethical concern, but it also raises all sorts of interesting questions about new business models. That is, how was the old internet founded, or the first generation of big tech founded on certain business models? And part of the innovation you all engage in is very much, how do you innovate new business models that can sustain privacy at the same time you can run a sustainable company that actually can grow and develop new technologies over time? I'm curious your thoughts on, when we think about how to regulate privacy, there's different approaches. You can think of different ways of bringing pressure to preserve privacy. One avenue is you look to government, you look to regulators to try to set up some laws, some regulations that guide how data can be collected, how it can be used. Another avenue is that you through competition, develop alternatives that are more attractive to people that have privacy protections in there. And I don't know that these could be complementary. They don't have to be exclusionary. The regulatory approach, the competition approach don't necessarily need to be in tension. I'm curious if you're more optimistic that competition, market competition, innovation is what's ultimately going to protect privacy, or are there key areas where you think regulators really need to step up and do something new to develop an ecosystem where privacy is better protected?
Okay, Bill, this is a big one. And thank you for asking big questions every step of the way here. First of all, on October 2nd, 2021, which would be about 4 months ago, I had an op-ed in the Wall Street Journal where I said, I've changed my mind. Facebook is a monopoly. Now, the Wall Street Journal gave me 1,300 words, which is a big op-ed to explain these 6 reasons why. I won't go into all those in detail, but I will say that in 2019, I had written an op-ed in the Wall Street Journal saying that I compete with Facebook. They're not a monopoly. Now, here just fundamentally, what's changed is Facebook has, first of all, has half the world on it now, half the world. And 50% of Facebook users get their news on Facebook. That means 1/4 of the world is relying on Facebook for their news, and Facebook curates the news that they give to each member. So that means that free will, is all, everybody's opinion, everything is being manipulated by Facebook. That's scary, dangerous, etc. Facebook is a massive monopoly, interfering with the free market. Facebook announced several months ago, it's now 2022, but they announced several months ago in 2021 that they were now budgeting $1 billion a year to pay content producers to produce content on their platform. This is separate from the news agencies that they're also paying, or that the agencies are paying them. So imagine this. Facebook is now paying content producers massive amounts of money to produce content. This means influencers, their pages. This means in groups, everything. Regular, average, people are getting paid to produce content for their followers on Facebook, and therefore being discouraged by producing content on other platforms. Talk about massive interference with the free market, with the ability for these producers to freely produce on other places. Because Facebook the quid pro quo is produce here, we'll pay a lot of money, but if you're producing over there, we're going to limit your reach here. So there's just massive anti-competitive, initiatives by Facebook. So we're dealing with that. So at the same time, the only solution, if you regulate, first of all, we've regulated Facebook, everybody. Now, this goes back 11 years ago. In 2011, Facebook and the Federal Trade Commission had what's called a consent decree agreement, where Facebook agreed not to violate their users' privacy, not to do, wrong, not to wrongfully use, and also not to abuse their own privacy policies. Facebook broke those rules. They didn't care. Cambridge Analytica is a great example of that. And so the Federal Trade Commission had an opportunity, because there were fines built into that agreement. The Federal Trade Commission had the opportunity to levy a $2 trillion fine on Facebook. Now, that would have hurt. What did they do? They levied a $5 billion fine on Facebook. Now, listen, you really want to get the context of this. You could be fined $2 trillion, you got fined $5 billion, your stock went up more than that the same day you were fined. Ouch. That didn't hurt at all. So regulations don't work. And yet here we are, because, so Facebook is absolutely a monopoly. And yet, we already know that regulations don't work. We know this with Google too. We know they've been fined around the world for stealing people's data, and all they do is take the fines. Even in the EU with GDPR. GDPR turns out, unfortunately, because I really appreciate the European Union trying this, but to be toothless. So these companies have thousands of lobbyists. They can influence almost every arm of government. So we need the free market. Also, technology is going to evolve. So I don't know, whatever year you're watching this interview, but technology is going to evolve. They're calling it Web 3, decentralization, changing the way we store and upload our content, taking control of our content. So we've got to allow the free market to do that. If we regulate Facebook, then actually we'll regulate out competition. What if they regulated Facebook to give you a newsfeed in timeline order? What if they regulated Facebook not to, et cetera? Well, they could regulate MeWe right out of existence, right? That wouldn't be very helpful, because then Facebook would control the world. So anyway, there's a lot to do. Section 230. Just want to touch on this today, because I don't know when you're going to be watching this, but this was a critical, smart, piece of regulatory guidance, which allows social networks not to be liable for the content posted on their platforms. It allows startups to exist. It allows MeWe to exist. Imagine if we were liable for the content posted on our platform. First of all, it kills privacy, because if we're liable, then we've got to watch every word you write. It doesn't matter, private or public. We've got to watch every word. We'll know everything you do. So there goes privacy. And if we're liable for anything you post, then we've got to be censoring all the time. Censor, 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 censor. And we've got to have an army of lawyers working for us all the time, which no startup can afford. And we've got to be defending lawsuits all the time. That's crazy. So there are a lot of pitfalls. So how do we regulate? What do we do? These are massive questions. We somehow have to allow the free market to thrive. We've got to get Facebook to stop interfering. The Federal Trade Commission's complaint filed in August, right now there are these massive antitrust lawsuits against Facebook. 46 state attorney generals have filed a suit. The Federal Trade Commission has filed a suit, which recently has been upheld, that it can move forward. MeWe is one of only 2 direct competitors to Facebook left. All the other ones are gone. They're out of business, driven out of business, or they're acquired by Facebook. It's just Snap and MeWe. And Snap has turned into a Facebook clone. They're studying, they're watching everything you do, collecting your data. They have algorithms to target you. Unfortunately, Snap pivoted a few years ago. Remember, Snap originally made their mark with disappearing content, which was cool. But it turned out, and you guys might not even remember this, it turned out that the content didn't really disappear. It just got buried into a folder on your phone. So Snap got fined and put on probation for like 20 years. It was back in, I don't remember how long ago, it was 2013, 2014, 2015, whenever it was. So Snap actually broadened into basically a surveillance capitalist company. But it's just MeWe and Snap that are left right now, because Twitter is not a platform. Twitter is a social network. TikTok is a social network. But those are one-trick ponies. To build a platform that has all the features you love about true social networking, the groups and the pages and the custom cameras and the stories and the disappearing content and, all the great features, the news feeds, private news feeds for your friends and your family, all that stuff. There's only two left, Snap and MeWe.
On the issue of algorithms and content, I think you had made an interesting observation, perhaps it was in your TED Talk, that there can be financial incentives for companies to actually promote discord, that is, promote incendiary conflict, because that drives engagement. So you might have this sort of perverse economic motive for trying to actually manipulate news in such a way that it makes people more polarized, makes them more distrustful, and that sort of thing. And I can see the virtues of having a platform that lays out sort of the feed without that sort of manipulation. One of the challenges platforms are also facing today is not so much an economic one, but calls from different interest groups to censor content, to take down content that they find disagreeable, that isn't amenable to their own view, their own advocacy. And I'm sure MeWe has struggled with this. I know you've had enormous growth in Hong Kong as activists in that area, freedom activists have used the platform to communicate. I'm sure you've had pressure from governments like the Chinese government against that. I would imagine you also get pressure from groups that are upset about all sorts of speech on your platform that they find objectionable. How do you think about the obligations of free speech on a platform like MeWe or in social media more generally? Do you think that really there should be sort of a blanket policy, which is, as long as you're not doing something illegal, it belongs in the platform? Do you all have to negotiate country by country more detailed policies on how you're going to police forms of speech and content? Or really is that ultimately something that's best left up to users?
So really important. This is really important. This question of free speech and censorship on social media and in general in our lives. It's sort of this woke culture that we're living in right now. Start with this. The principle of democracy is the legal support for disagreement. That's really one of the absolute freedom of speech. This is what the bedrock of democracy is. So and now you come to social media. And so we have very clear and strict terms and conditions, terms of service on MeWe. They're just fair. So because who am I to tell you, whether your opinion is right or wrong? I mean, that's a very dangerous line that we do our best not to cross. But MeWe is for civil discourse, because that's also what democracy is about. So if you're inciting violence, if you're posting hate, if you're doxing, if you're bullying, if you're posting porn, then you're not invited to stay on MeWe. We have a jail system for our users. So, if we find something, our trust and safety team finds something that breaks our terms, we may put you in jail, but it's really outrageous. It's up to our trust and safety team. They may just kick you off the platform and block you. Now, having said that, we don't care whether, if you have an opinion, like we said, about politics or medicine or anything, it's none of our business. Just keep it clean, everybody. Civil discourse is absolutely the bedrock of democracy. And so people love MeWe, and it doesn't matter whether you're left, center, right. MeWe's for everybody. Also, only about 1% of MeWe users are actively engaged in the political groups. 99% of MeWe users are engaged in lifestyle, in pets and cooking and sports and music and entertainment and health and whatever it is. So we know that, but the media seems to like to sort of look at what's going on politically on these platforms. Interestingly enough, in 2016, when we first launched, it was the Bernie Sanders groups that moved from Facebook to MeWe first, because they felt that they were getting censored on Facebook. Subsequently, over the years, we've had vegans, we've had the LGBTQ, we've had conservatives, we've had all kinds of disparate groups with all kinds of interesting thoughts, but nothing wrong. But Facebook seems to decide at certain times to censor, and of course, Facebook went massively censoring conservatives, also progressives. We've seen progressives move over, when they felt like they've been censored or their reach is limited. Remember, one of the ways you get censored on Facebook is you post about something and nobody sees it. Their algorithm just limits your reach. Can't happen on MeWe. If you've got 1 million followers on MeWe and you post something, or if you've got 100 friends on MeWe and you post something, whoever you're connected to is going to get that post in timeline order in the news feeds 100% of the time. It's so simple. So this idea that Facebook amplifies outrageous content, it's true, it's well documented, they do this into your newsfeed. And it might not create an extended engagement with you, but it'll create an immediate engagement with you, which also grabs your attention. So then if they have an ad or something, or something else, they can get you right there, because they've got your mind. These algorithms, guys, are so sophisticated and so manipulated. All they want to do is get your eyes open, and then they want to pop. Remember, they're all about the money. We're all about the connection. So completely different. At MeWe, we like to say, at MeWe, our members are customers to serve and delight, not data to target or sell. Or another thing we say is, at Facebook, you present a facade of your life to the world. It's all pretend, it's all makeup. Everybody's trying to look good. At MeWe, you have authentic. MeWe's about your real life. What you're really feeling and thinking, because it's all about you and who you're connected to. It's not about us. We're here to support and serve you.
I know there's been a big discussion in the GDPR about data portability. Is it possible to go on a Facebook right now and download your entire profile and then plug it into a platform like MeWe? Or are there just so many, I imagine that being technically very difficult. And I think that's what a lot of the criticisms of the GDPR have been, that nobody really knows what this means. How portable is data across platforms?
Data portability or data interoperability. I wrote about it in my op-ed in the Wall Street Journal in October of 2021. It's a great idea. Listen, isn't that a great idea that we could just own our content and we decide where it goes and where it doesn't go? We can move it from Twitter to MeWe to Facebook, or get it off of Twitter and Facebook and get it onto MeWe, just like that. There's now regulations have attempted this in the healthcare industry. Data portability hasn't worked very well because the large healthcare institutions have fought it tooth and nail and made it really hard. We actually have built systems. When Google Plus closed, we built a data portability system so you could download your G Plus content and upload it to MeWe. So we built an uploader. Now that works fine because Google was going out of business, Google Plus that is, which was a Google social network in case you never heard of it. And that worked fine because Google didn't mess with it. So, we were able to study the format of how that download worked of their content. And then we were able then to create a system to upload it and parse it into your MeWe account. We can't do that with Facebook. Facebook's download. You can download your content on Facebook, but it's a mess. It's purposely designed so it's not portable. It's impossible to upload it. And if we built an uploader and we cracked the code, then their engineers would just change it the next day. So we'd have to rebuild it all over again because Facebook doesn't want data portability. So the idea that it would be regulated is lovely in principle. the only way this is really going to work is with decentralization. So where and regulations can't regulate, a decentralized way to store your data. So in theory, it's a great idea. In application, it's not likely to work for a decade or more, even if it got regulated, because the big guys would, first of all, they would drag it out in court for years and years and years and contest the law, and then ultimately they would make it impossible to do anyhow. So yes, data portability is great. The free market's going to take care of that. It's going to be Web 3.0. It's going to be decentralization, where we break the back of surveillance capitalism. We get back to pure capitalism. By the way, I'm a capitalist. I love capitalism. And remember, the principle of capitalism is providing a service or a product to people that's valuable, that they can love and improves or enhances their lives in some way. And then, they compensate you for that. So, it's a very lovely system done properly. We will do it, and we do it properly.
I'm curious, in conclusion, are there any pieces of advice you'd have for young entrepreneurs, young analysts, people in the data science area, people who are into digital technologies, thinking about, building the future of the internet? I know a lot of work goes into building a company like this, and creating new tech, developing new tech is extremely labor intensive. Anything that surprised you about the process that you think is useful for our students to know as they go out and think about how do you develop technologies at the same time that you're mindful of privacy?
First of all, everybody, if you really believe in an idea you have, then stick with it. Because it's always, being an entrepreneur is a tough road. And if there's some ethical perspective baked into it, for me, I was one of the early founders of social media. Why? It wasn't about privacy. It was like, wow, this new technology is cool, and we can stay connected in massively great ways and share our lives together wherever we are around the world. Our family and our friends, we connect to like-minded people. And it just made sense to me. So I can't code, everybody. I am not an engineer. And now over the years, I purposely have never taken any coding courses, because I wanted the engineers to make those decisions on the code. I would be sort of the visionary, leading from that perspective, and hopefully, making good hires and building the right ethical foundation for a great company. So, the key is, it's not easy. And especially, and Bill, we haven't talked about it, but MeWe has approximately 20 million registered users today, and very good site activity. But we really should have probably 500 million users at this point. Facebook has interfered with us. Facebook mutes conversations about MeWe on their platform. This is well documented, and it's rather outrageous. So, and you've really got to be tough. So anyway, you've just, if you really believe in something, stick with it, and just, keep going until you wake up one day. And if you say it can't go on, then it's game over. But remember, there's only one way to win. It's got to be in the game. And if you're really doing something that you feel has a larger purpose than you, which for us, remember, the inventor of the World Wide Web, Sir Tim Berners-Lee, is one of our advisors. The co-founder of the worldwide movement called Conscious Capitalism, is one of our advisors. This is bigger than me. This is about all of us together. And this is about our children. This is about future generations. This is about what direction is the world going to go in now that it's possible to spy on all of us all the time. So we've got to manage and take it back and make sure that the future is done properly for what democracy, for what this great republic called the United States was built to support.
Mark, thank you so much. I couldn't have asked for a better guide to the sort of concerns in this landscape, and also for a more inspiring, entrepreneur who's taken leadership in this area. So thank you for your time with us today and all your insights. And we wish you and MeWe the best as you continue to grow around the globe.